Twilight copies Shrek and fails miserably. Now, you might be wondering, how could I be comparing this masterpiece to this piece of complete garbage? Well, we're gonna get into it, but this is gonna be solely about the soundtrack. Both of these movies have mostly pop music and then some original soundtrack or score. Let's start off with Shrek. Shrek uses pop music fantastically. It uses the pop music as very obvious, straightforward titles that relate to lighter scenes. They show this outer shell and they still add meaning, but there's nothing deep there. It's very light, but it's very obvious. Like, All Star plays while Shrek is the main character. He's the All Star, he's happy with his life. Hey now, you're an all-star, get your game on, go play. It's very light, it's very straightforward. It's very clear just from the titles of these songs as to why they picked them for those specific scenes. In the fight scene, the song Bad Reputation plays as Shrek, who has a bad reputation, is beating up soldiers and proving that his bad reputation can be used for something. Very literal, very obvious. My Beloved Monster plays when you see Fiona and Shrek slowly fall in love over things that are considered more nasty and less lovely, per se. And then the most obvious one is I'm on the Way, when he's literally on his way to go save Fiona. Very obvious, not meaningful pop music at all, but that adds to the story because it creates these contrasts to the really deep parts of the story. Like, in the beginning, we see Shrek as the all-star, he's happy with his life, or so we think when we see him with the original scoring song, Eating Alone. We see Shrek, even though he wants to be happy and seem unbothered on the outside, inside he's really lonely. And this contrast of really obvious pop music and then the original score helps because you're separating meaningful from meaningless or lighter scenes, and that adds meaning to the original score, to all the little leitmotifs that they have in the movie. It makes your audience way more attached to these so you can use them later on in other scored scenes. Another example is when they're escaping the dragon, the song Slaying the Dragon plays as they run away from the dragon in the castle. And it's very heroic, it's meaningful, he's doing something good, he's the hero. That doesn't happen. He has problems because he thinks like, oh, I'll only be seen as a monster. This is one scene where he finally breaks free from that stereotype, and he is the hero by slaying the dragon and saving them. When he picks up the sword, little detail for you there, that's a Dies Irae, which is a really old religious musical piece that resembles death and is in a lot of pop culture.
I'll take care of the dragon.
There's this like original scoring, right? It adds to it because it's again that contrast. That's what's so important. Just like in the wedding crash scene, okay, we have original score where he's actually admitting his love. Because Shrek is in this just emotional shell where he has walls, he doesn't let anything through, and he wants to seem happy and unbothered with songs like All Star and Bad Reputation, where he's like, hey man, I'm a monster, deal with it. But on the inside, he's actually really lonely and has feelings too. In the wedding crash, that's when he actually admits to Fiona that way he loves her. And we get that original score, and it makes that scene so much more emotional because he's breaking free of the shell. And this is actually a really great movie to use that pop with some score style because it could totally be the whole soundtrack is just a metaphor for the emotional barriers that Shrek has, and they break through and you can see the impact of the emotional connection with all the musical themes and leitmotifs that make it so much more important, and it just brings those very emotional, intense scenes above those that have obvious light pop music. Now, this masterpiece, Shrek, 2001, right? Then, 7 years later, Twilight came along. And I, okay, in this movie, they have pop music and they have the main themes, right? But let me ask you this. When you think of Twilight, you think of the theme, probably. You think of that main theme, okay? But it doesn't have any emotional connection. You just think it's this cheesy theme. If you've seen the movie or if you've seen like the TikTok trends that people have been making fun of it. But when people think about Twilight and they think of the scene that they like, they think of the pop music scene in the baseball. That's the problem. Your scenes with the pop music should still be good, but they shouldn't be the meaningful scenes that someone thinks of when they think of your movie. And it's Twilight, okay, they have plenty of good themes. They have the main love theme. The Predator theme, which is kind of like mysterious vampire theme.
As if you could outrun me!
And then the Cullens overall, which kind of sounds like...
Who are they? The Cullens. They're, Dr. and Mrs. Cullen's foster kids. They moved out.
And then they also have some light nomadic drums for all the other vampires that we see a little bit of. You would think that they want to set these leitmotifs up really well because there's going to be so many movies later on. Like, they set themselves up to have sequels. And people already have an emotional attachment to this story, so it shouldn't be that difficult to make these musical themes interesting and meaningful. No, you'd be surprised, though. They use the main romantic theme in so many parts that they shouldn't. First time Bella meets the Cullens, they're driving up, right? Bella gets out of the car, and they play the theme. Why? She's getting out of the car. Just save it for when she meets them. And Edward's like, this is my girlfriend. She's amazing. You could have saved it for that. That would have shown their relationship. The love theme is meant to show their relationship, not when Bella's getting out of a car, okay? Another example when they use it wrong is in this big tree scene where he's climbing in the tree. By the way, worst line in the entire movie happens here.
You better hold on tight, Spider Monkey.
I hate that so much. So many ways. Continuing. This is about we're not focusing on all the other problems with the movie. We're focusing on the music. You just gotta ignore it for now. But there's this big camera work of them climbing in the tree and being really awkward, by the way. But the main theme kicks up when it's showing like just this tree, just the background, just nature. Why not show it when she's, I don't know, like, oh yes, I trust you to jump across trees with me on your back. Why not do that? That was a perfect time to use it. No, you just, pretty trees, let me play some pretty music. No, all you're doing is that you're telling your audience that, hey, you know these could be emotional? No, trees. And he saves her from this car, okay? They make eye contact, okay? And it says like, hey man, I just saved you and I've revealed something to you, secretive. You know what? That'd be the perfect time to play the love theme, maybe? Another example of when they use the theme where, okay, I could see how it could fit, but because the acting is so awkward, it just doesn't work. It's when they're in biology, and there's just a lot of really tense eye contact, and the theme plays, but what is the point? That's not really a bonding moment. If anything, that would have been the perfect time to play the Predator theme, because, mysterious, scary guy I'm sitting next to in bio, but I guess not. Also, why are they taking bio? They're not freshmen. Why are they just both stupid, or does the universe just not care? Another time that they miss out on the Predator theme is Bella's researching the legends after finding out a little bit more about him and hearing the stories from Jacob, right? which, by the way, there's no Predator theme there either. But Belle's researching, right? And she's finding out all this stuff from vampires and all these old legends, right? Not a single main theme is in there. Next scene that is really important is Edward saves her from these like creepy cat collar guys, and there's just zero music in the scene. I can understand having the eerie silence when it's actually happening, but once they're in the car, why wouldn't you play some like variation of the romance theme or a little bit of the Predator one? But
We should go back there and rip those guys' heads off.
No, you shouldn't.
You don't know the vile, repulsive.
And then at the dinner scene, probably the most important part of the setup of their relationship. This is the biggest bonding that they have had for like the first time, okay? Where she still doesn't know what he is, right? They're at dinner. And you never ever get the romance theme. You just get restaurant music, which I can see because you want to fit the setting. But once they really get into talking, why wouldn't you play one of the other themes? Like when she's questioning him about how you know these things or how you read minds, why not play the Predator theme? Or even better, the romance theme, because he's telling her these deep secrets. By the way, this is where the best character in the movie.
Every mind in this room, apart from yours. Just money, sex, money, sex, cat.
And one of the most important scenes in the movie, like story-wise and their relationship-wise, is when she confronts him and more mellow Predator theme continues for the whole scene.
You won't hurt me. Where are we going?
Up the mountain. Out of the cloud bank.
Which doesn't paint this as like, oh man, I accept you for who you are, you know, which is what this scene should be. It really should be. But you know when the romance theme does show up, when he talks about wanting her and how he hated her before, and then he touches her neck really creepily, it's so bad. Then later, the next night or whatever, she admits that she's deeply in love with him.
And third, I was unconditionally and irrevocably in love with him.
There's no love theme. Just none. Just let her admit, like, huge point of the entire plot. Just, no love theme. Not like that would be important to set up with connection for your audience. Then this is where the main theme is really well known for, where he plays it for her diegetically, which means it's the actors are aware of the actual music and it's not just kind of background. So he plays it for her, and it's written in as her lullaby, which, really creepy name for it. That's like main romantic theme example. Then we have another great set of lines.
Mama, can I talk to you later?
Come on, we gotta talk boys. Are you being safe?
How did you get in here?
The window.
Thank you, Captain Obvious. Then, big part in the plot, right? They kiss for the first time in complete silence. No romantic theme, nothing, no. Apparently they just don't need a romantic theme. It's like they're trying not to make the theme meaningful. They have so many opportunities, and they rarely use it well. It's their first kiss. This is a big part of their relationship. Why wouldn't you use the romantic? Then, what's probably the most memorable scene of the movie is uses pop music. It's when they're playing baseball. And let's go back to Shrek for a second, right? The pop music scenes were good because they were still good scenes, which they all should be good scenes, but it's obvious, it's light. There's no meaningfulness to it. You remember it, but it's not what comes to your mind, right? Twilight picked music that was too good and didn't fit well enough, and people just like the songs. It has an amazing set of songs with it, right? But they play it, and it's like, how does this song fit with them playing baseball? It's a great song, but it doesn't. It needs to be light and meaningless so that our themes that are already not that weighted can have that contrast.
Okay, now I see why you need the thunder.
Twilight does the opposite of what you should do. Like in Shrek, they set up the themes really well so they're meaningful, and then they make the pop scenes really light so that it's separate and you have this big amount of contrast and meaningfulness. Twilight goes the opposite direction. They don't apply their main themes correctly, and then they make their pop songs too good and not really relate to the story. People just like the pop songs, and they remember those scenes because of it. So you're just bringing them closer together and making your more important scenes less important, your less important scenes more important and memorable. Then Edward apologizes, no romance theme there. Edward saves her from the vampire venom, and they play pop music. We get a whole flashback of the entire relationship with just meaningless pop music. Why not use this opportunity to put in the romance theme? Oh wait, that's right, you didn't apply it correctly earlier, and you know that, so you're not going to use it.
Bitter shade, I'll wrap you in my arms.
Then we get my all-time favorite scene of this entire movie. Bella comes down the stairs for prom, looking, not great, but she's trying. And Edward is like, baby, you're perfect just the way you are. And we get the best judgmental look ever from the mustache man, Charlie. Then they go to prom, and while she's waiting outside, Jacob comes to talk to Bella, and the romance theme plays.
Be right back.
Bella.
Jacob. Hey.
Nice.
But I thought the whole setup of the story was supposed to be, that's the theme for Edward and Bella. They could have had, like, the romance theme flipped, or, like, the opposite of it for Jacob. He should have gotten his own theme, really. They enter the prom, the romance theme plays, which is a good use of it.
Smile.
Then they start slow dancing with pop music.
Oh, why not?
And there's a really big bonding moment. He's talking about, like, oh, well, I don't want to change or want you to live your human life. Could have used human theme in there, by the way. Could have sprinkled that in. But no. And I can understand, like, you want to keep the atmosphere where it is, just like with the restaurant music. But you could have, like, gone into or kicked up the romance theme or kind of, like, sprinkled it in, That would have been helpful, because these really big bonding moments are when you should really be using it. That's what's supposed to make these meaningful. But they just use pop music, and it makes the pop music more meaningful than their actual score is, which is why people remember the pop music and not the actual. They don't actually like the main themes. They're just seen as cheesy because you apply them in a cheesy, meaningless way. In conclusion, right, Shrek, amazing use of pop music, and helps separate those meaningful scenes even more, and could be seen as a metaphor for the entire idea of Shrek's entire character, right? Twilight messes this up big time, applies themes in the wrong ways, and uses pop music that they probably shouldn't have used, because it just doesn't fit the scene well enough and isn't lightweight enough. Because, don't get me wrong, the songs in Shrek are great, and you're going to remember them as that, but you're going to remember the more meaningful scenes first, okay? The importance of a score is that a good score should be able to disappear while having a huge impact on it, because, like, okay, think back to How to Train Your Dragon. Everyone remembers the main themes. If I play one of those themes, you might not know, hey, that's Toothless's theme. You might not know that specifically because you're not a music nerd, but you'll recognize what movie that's from, and it'll make you think back to that emotional connection, okay? Twilight, when you hear the theme, you should think of their relationship and the heartbreak and the happy endings and stuff. You shouldn't think of some dumb cheesy TikTok dance or this is the skin of a killer, Bella. No, you shouldn't think of that, but that is what we think of, because they used it in these meaningless scenes, and it just makes it meaningless to your audience, and makes your audience not take anything that you use that theme with seriously. That is the video, folks. How Twilight tried to copy Shrek and failed miserably. Thank you for watching.